Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notifications. Samuel Cole woke on Tuesday. A weight on his chest. Familiar. At 41, he was a senior risk analyst. A man whose entire world was built on quantifying deviations from the norm. He built models. He analyzed the data. He predicted failures before they happened. His pride was in his rationality. In the calm, methodical way he could dismantle a problem and render it manageable. But the anomaly in his life, the one that truly mattered, had no spreadsheet. No algorithm. It was his wife, Veronica, and the silent, expanding gulf that had formed between them. 3 months. A slow, creeping void. He stood in the sterile white kitchen, the quartz countertops gleaming. He observed the morning's routine. An auditor in his own home. Everything in its place. Just as he had designed it. Leo, his son, 10 years old. Meticulously lining up his cereal. Sophie, his daughter, 8. Humming a tune from her piano lessons. The scene was one of perfect domestic tranquility. A perfect system. And yet, he sensed a critical flaw. Veronica descended the stairs. 37. A public relations executive. Her ambition, once, he'd found it attractive. Now, it felt like a competing interest. Air dump. Eyes locked on her phone. Her thumb moving in a quick, fluid motion. Alien to him, she moved through the kitchen like a ghost. A quick peck on each child's forehead. A muttered, "Have a great day." A coffee mug grabbed, without a glance in his direction. This was the new data point. Repeated daily. His presence. Downgraded to an environmental factor. Something to be navigated around. Not engaged with. Meeting with the new client this morning? Samuel asked. His tone was level. He was collecting data. Yes. A long one, she replied. Her eyes never left the screen. Might be a late one tonight. He filed the information away. Vague. Preemptive justification. 15 years. Their marriage had spanned 15 years. An asset he had always logged as solid. Appreciating. Built on mutual understanding, or so he'd thought. He had charted their course. A long-term plan. And for years, she had seemed a willing co-pilot. They built everything together. Or rather, he built the framework. And she decorated it. That was how he saw it. Her career. It used to fit within the parameters. But 94 days ago, the parameters had shifted. The late nights began. Incrementally. 15 minutes. Then 30. The excuses were always plausible. Professionally sound. A press release. A client dinner. A brainstorming session. He accepted the data, at first. But the deviations began to form a pattern. A trend line, pointing away from him. Away from their home. He tried to address it. Scheduled conversations. Prepared talking points. Her responses were always smooth, disarming, and utterly generic. She made him feel unreasonable. The distance wasn't just time. It was emotional. When she was home, she was an echo. Her body was present. Her mind was elsewhere. Locked behind the glowing screen of her phone. That device. Always within reach. Always. Face down. A fortress. It would vibrate against the granite countertop. A low, insistent hum. She would snatch it up. Her focus absolute. A focus he hadn't seen her direct at him, in months. Intimacy. Had flatlined. His attempts were met with a checklist of deflections. Exhaustion. A headache. An early morning meeting. He tried to be logical. To consider other hypotheses. Stress. Dissatisfaction. But a colder, more primal variable kept inserting itself into his calculations. A possibility that was both terrifying, and on some dark level, validating. It would explain the data perfectly. He just needed proof. The search for proof became his covert project. A private audit. By day, he managed portfolios worth hundreds of millions. By night, his focus narrowed to a single, volatile asset. His marriage. He began conducting small, controlled experiments. Designed to elicit a reaction. To force a data point. One evening, he planned a dinner. Her favorite wine. The sea bass she loved. The children were away. The house was quiet. The perfect environment for reconnection. "This is lovely," Veronica said. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Herr phone sat beside her plate. A silent sentinelle. He tried to engage her. Her answers were polished. Hollow. It felt like an interview. Later, he reached for her hand. I miss this, he said. Just us. She allowed it. For precisely 12 seconds. Then, she pulled away. Gently. I'm exhausted, Sam. The new campaign. The excuse was flawless. The experiment's result was logged. Intimacy test. Failed. Subject remains avoidant. He didn't push. Direct confrontation without conclusive evidence was poor strategy. It would only make her more cautious. He needed an unforced error. The error came on a Monday night. He was in their bedroom, reviewing a report on his tablet. The cold, hard numbers. A comfort. A world that made sense. Veronica emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. She left her phone on the dresser. Her back to him. At 9:17 p.m., the phone buzzed. The screen lit up. His eyes flickered. A reflex. He saw it. Before she could turn. Before he could look away. A message. From a contact named Dominic. The preview was short, but it was enough. Tonight was electric. Already counting down. The blood in his veins turned to ice water. His heart rate accelerated. He forced himself to breathe evenly, his gaze fixed on the meaningless report on his lap. He did not move. He observed. Veronica turned, picked up the phone, and a small, private smile touched her lips. A smile he hadn't seen in years. It wasn't for him. She quickly typed a reply. Then tucked the phone into her bedside drawer. An act of concealment. She slipped into bed beside him. As if nothing had happened. Good night, Sam, she murmured, and turned off her lamp. He lay in the darkness for hours. The words burned into his mind. Electric, counting down, the vocabulary of an affair. His hypothesis had been confirmed. The shock was quickly replaced by something else. A cold, sharp clarity, a grim satisfaction. He wasn't paranoid. He was correct. The pain was a physical thing. A crushing weight. But beneath it, his analytical mind was already working. This was no longer a marriage to be salvaged. It was a crisis. To be managed. He needed more data. A complete picture. He needed to control the narrative. Lying there, next to the woman who was now just a collection of risk factors, Samuel began to formulate a plan. The emotional response could wait. First, came the strategy. The next morning, his demeanor was flawless. He was the pillar of stability. The constant. He kissed Veronica goodbye as she rushed out the door. A perfunctory gesture. A transaction. The moment her car was gone, he switched modes. From husband and father, to crisis manager. He drove to a quiet coffee shop, and pulled out a business card. Frank Miller, Private Investigations. Discretion and Results. He dialed. A gruff voice answered. Miller. Samuel's voice was calm. Devoid of turmoil. I require surveillance services, he began. He laid out the data points. Veronica Cole. Her work. Her car. Her license plate. The name, Dominic. Miller's questions were practical. Timelines. Budget. Objectives. He sounded unimpressed. As if this was just another file in a cabinet full of betrayals. I'll start today, Miller said. You'll hear from me when I have something. The line went dead. The next 3 days were an exercise in supreme self-control. He lived a dual existence. At home, he was the attentive father. The stable husband. He was insulating his children from the coming fallout. He observed Veronica with a new, chilling objectivity. She was no longer his wife. She was the subject of an investigation. He logged her every move. Tuesday. Opt. Patruzec și șapte pe my return. Excuse. Client dinner. Wednesday. 9:22 p.m. Return. Excuse. Presentation. Observation. Faint scent of unfamiliar cologne. Each lie was no longer a personal wound. It was evidence. Another entry in the file he was building. The pain was there, but he compartmentalized it. Emotion was a liability. He found himself feeling a strange superiority. While she was out, he was here, holding their world together. The responsible one. The one bearing the burden in silence. This narrative comforted him. Fueled his resolve. He wasn't a victim. He was a guardian. On Friday afternoon, his phone vibrated. An unknown number. "It's Miller. And R." The gruff voice was unmistakable. "We need to meet. In person. Do you have the information?" Samuel asked, his voice steady. "I have a full report. And visuals." Miller confirmed. "Let's just say, your hypothesis was sound." They agreed on a place. A time. Samuel ended the call. The preliminary data collection phase was over. It was time to review the findings. The parking lot was a vast expanse of gray asphalt. Frank Miller leaned against a nondescript sedan. A man who blended into the background. He passed Samuel a thick manila envelope. No words. None were needed. Samuel got back into his car. The envelope felt unnaturally heavy. This was it. The point of no return. Once he opened it, suspicion would become reality. His hands trembled. Not from fear. Anticipation. He tore the seal. Inside, a stack of glossy photographs. And a report. He looked at the photos first. Of course he did. The first photo. Veronica. With a man. Tall. Impeccably dressed. The next one. His hand on the small of her back. A gesture of possession. Brazen. The images grew worse. Veronica and Dominic. Entering a boutique hotel. The Halcyon. Another photo. At the hotel bar. Her hand on his arm. Another. At a restaurant. Laughing. A radiant laugh. A version of her he hadn't seen in years. Nausea. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the humiliation. A secret life. Documented in full color. Happening while he was at home. With their children. He put the photos down. And read the report. Meticulous. Cold. Factual. The man was Dominic Vance. 45. A senior partner at a client's firm. The report detailed dates. Times. Hotel reservations. Booked on weekday afternoons. It was the audit of his marriage's failure. Samuel placed everything back in the envelope. The pain in his chest returned. Sharp. Precise. But beneath it, his analytical mind was already working. Processing. Formulating the next steps. He had proof. Irrefutable proof. He didn't go back to the office. He didn't go home. He just drove. For hours. He wasn't thinking about saving his marriage. That asset was a total loss. He was thinking about damage control. A controlled demolition. He would not be a passive victim. Around 4 in the afternoon, he pulled up in front of a sleek downtown office building. He had an appointment with Ms. Evelyn Reed, the best family law attorney in the city. He sat in her office and laid out the envelope on her desk. He explained the situation. Calmly. Concisely. She reviewed the evidence. Her expression unreadable. "This is comprehensive," she said, her voice crisp. "In Colorado, adultery can significantly impact the division of assets and custody." Samuel listened intently. He wasn't just seeking a divorce. He was seeking a favorable outcome. He was seeking justice. As defined by the legal system. "I want to file immediately," Samuel said. "And I want primary custody." Miss Reed nodded. "With this, we can build a very strong case." He signed the retainer. Phase 1. Data collection. Was complete. Phase 2, confrontation and legal action. Was about to begin. He arrived home. Made the children dinner. Tucked them into bed. He was their rock. He would not falter. Then he went downstairs. And prepared the stage. He turned off all the lights. Except for one. A single floor lamp. Casting long, dramatic shadows. He sat on the sofa. And on the coffee table in front of him, he placed the brown envelope. Then, he waited. 10:23 p.m. He heard her key in the lock. She walked in. Kicked off her heels. "You're still up," she said. Her voice attempting a casual lightness. It fell flat in the heavy silence. "Sit down, Veronica." His voice was quiet. But it had a weight that made her freeze. She saw him then. And she saw the envelope. She sat in the armchair opposite him. The silence stretched. He looked directly at her. How long has it been going on? With Dominic Vance. He used the full name. A power move. Panic flared in her eyes. What? Dominic? What are you talking about? He's a client. A nervous laugh died in her throat. Sam, you're scaring me. He didn't respond. Instead, he reached for the envelope, opened the clasp, and began to pull out the photographs. One by one, he laid them out in a neat row, a timeline of her deceit. The first photo. Her face went pale. The second. Her hands began to tremble. The third, fourth, fifth. She stared at them in stunned silence. Dominic Vance, Samuel recited, his voice like steel. You meet him at hotels. During your work hours. You have lied to me. Every single day. You have looked our children in the eye. And lied to them. I choked sob. She covered her face. Sam, this isn't. What isn't it, Veronica? He pressed. It isn't what it looks like, it isn't important. Please, explain to me what this is. The anger he had suppressed was now leaking through. A controlled burn. She lifted her tear-streaked face. It was a mistake, she whispered. A terrible mistake. A mistake? He repeated, the words dripping with sarcasm. Did you trip and fall into his hotel room? Multiple times? Over months, was that just one long accident? It started as work. She stammered. He listened to me, he made me feel seen. And I don't make you feel seen? He shot back. The man who provides for this family? The man who manages every single detail of this household so you can have your career? I don't make you feel valued? She flinched. This wasn't about you, she cried. It was about me. I felt lost. Helsen. He stood up. Pacing. How long, Veronica? I want to hear it from you. How long? She closed her eyes. 4 months, she whispered. 4 months. 120 days, he said. The calculation was automatic. You lied to me every single day for 120 days. Sam, please, she begged, standing. Let me fix this. It's over. I swear. I choose you. I choose our family. Sam. He stopped. And looked at her with pure contempt. You don't get to choose anymore, he said. You made your choice every time you walked into that hotel. He walked to his briefcase, pulled out a sheaf of legal documents, and placed them on the table, right next to the photographs. This, he said, his voice flat, final, is a petition for divorce. I met with a lawyer this afternoon. She's filing it tomorrow morning. Her face went white as paper. Divorce? No, Sam, no. We can go to therapy. Work on what? He asked, his voice weary. There's nothing left. Trust is a core asset, Veronica. And ours is now worthless. What about the children? She cried. Her last, desperate gambit. You should have thought about them when you were with Dominic Vance, he said, his voice like ice. My lawyer is very confident I will be granted primary custody. And your expenditures will be taken into account during the division of our assets. He had won. He could see it in her complete and utter devastation. She collapsed back into the armchair, sobbing. You can sleep in the guest room, he said finally. I want you out of my sight. She stumbled from the room. A broken woman. Samuel waited until he heard the door click shut. Then he sat down, put his head in his hands, and finally, felt the full, crushing weight of it all. But even through the pain, there was a hard, clear sense of purpose. The demolition had begun. The days that followed were executed with cold efficiency. A series of strategic moves, each one calculated to maximize his advantage and enforce consequences. Emotion was a luxury. This was a restructuring. His first move was to expand the battlefield. He believed in total accountability. He compiled 2 packages. The first was for Melissa Vance, Dominic's wife. A selection of the most damning photos. An anonymous, factual letter. It wasn't malice, he told himself. It was disclosure. The second package was for Veronica's employer. Un formal dossier. Évidence. A highlighted copy of the company's code of conduct. He delivered it in person. "We will launch a full internal investigation," the head of HR promised. "That is all I ask," Samuel replied. The consequences unfolded swiftly. As predicted, Melissa Vance filed for divorce. Veronica's agency terminated her employment. Gross misconduct. Her career, built over 15 years, was destroyed. The divorce proceedings were a formality. She had no leverage. She settled. He presented a meticulous record to the court. He was the primary caregiver, the stable parent. The judge agreed. Samuel was awarded primary physical custody. Veronica got visitation every other weekend. He was awarded 65% of the assets. He bought out her share of the house. He would maintain stability for the children. That was paramount. Veronica, jobless, disgraced, moved into a small, rented apartment. She had lost her husband, her career, the house, her children. She had lost everything. 6 months later, life had settled into a new rhythm. Predictable, orderly. The divorce was final. One Saturday afternoon, Samuel sat on his back patio, watching Leo and Sophie play. The Denver sun was warm. He felt a sensation he hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. It wasn't joy. It was the quiet, orderly peace of a balanced ledger. The peace of a crisis, successfully managed. The betrayal still ached sometimes, but the feeling was muted, controlled. He had faced the worst-case scenario. And he had not only survived. He had prevailed. He had refused to be a victim. He had taken control, demanded accountability, protected his children. He had learned about risk. And he had learned about his own strength. Watching his children laugh, Samuel Cole allowed himself a small, controlled smile. Life went on. Justice, as he defined it, had been served. He was okay. He had won. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.